Hey warriors! The person you see in the mirror every morning isn't the problem. The problem is you've been lying to them, telling them tomorrow will be different while repeating today's patterns, promising change while choosing comfort, saying you want more while settling for less. The gap between your words and your actions has grown so wide you've learned to live in it, numb to the contradiction. But numbness isn't peace, it's slow death. Reinvention doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with the brutal honesty to admit you've been sabotaging yourself, that the enemy isn't circumstances, timing, or luck. It's the version of you that refuses to evolve. And 2026, it's not going to save you. You have to save yourself. The Stoics didn't write their philosophy during moments of triumph. They wrote it during collapse. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Not someday. Not when conditions improve. Now. In the mess. In the struggle. In the gap between who you are and who you must become. That's where you are right now. In the gap. And you can either keep making excuses for why you're stuck there, or you can do something most people never have the courage to do. Stop lying and start building." These 7 Stoic lessons aren't gentle. They won't coddle you. They won't tell you everything happens for a reason, or that you just need to believe in yourself. They'll tell you the truth. You've been wasting your power on things that don't matter while neglecting the only thing that does, your ability to command yourself. This year isn't about adding more to your life. It's about removing everything that's been draining it. The false beliefs, the victim mentality, the scattered focus, the emotional reactivity, the comfortable lies. Strip it all away, and what remains is raw potential, waiting for you to shape it into something unbreakable. But you have to mean it this time. No half measures, no dabbling, no consuming this content and then forgetting it by tomorrow. Right now, pause and decide. Are you actually ready to change, or are you just entertaining yourself with the idea of it? If you're ready, like this video. Share this with someone who's tired of their own excuses. Subscribe because this channel exists for people who choose transformation over comfort. And don't skip a single section. Declare war on your old self. Comment this now. No more excuses. Number 1. Stop waiting for readiness. Act from incompleteness. You've been waiting to feel ready. Ready to start. Ready to speak up. Ready to take the leap. Ready to become the person you know you should be. And while you wait for that magical moment of readiness, years disappear. Readiness is a myth. It's a story your fear tells to keep you paralyzed. It's the comfortable lie that lets you postpone action indefinitely while feeling like you're being responsible. Seneca cut through this delusion. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. You don't get to practice in the waiting room. Life doesn't give you a rehearsal before the real performance. Every day you wait for readiness is a day you're not living. You're just occupying space, consuming oxygen, moving toward death without ever truly showing up. The people who transform their lives don't wait until they're qualified. They don't wait until they've figured everything out. They don't wait until the path is clear and the outcome is guaranteed. They act from a state of incompleteness, uncertainty, and inadequacy, and they let the action itself teach them what they need to know. Think about every dream you've postponed because you weren't ready yet. The business you didn't start because you needed more knowledge. The conversation you didn't have because you hadn't found the perfect words. The relationship you didn't pursue because you weren't healed enough yet. The art you didn't create because your skills weren't refined enough. All of it postponed indefinitely. Not because you actually needed more preparation, but because preparation gave you a socially acceptable reason to avoid the terror of trying and possibly failing. But here's what happens while you wait. The world moves on without you. Opportunities close, time evaporates, and the person you could have become remains locked inside, unexpressed, unrealized, slowly suffocating under the weight of not yet. Consider the mental paralysis that comes from perfectionism, the belief that you can't begin until conditions are ideal, until you know enough, until you're certain of success. That's not high standards. That's fear wearing a respectable mask. It's self-sabotage disguised as conscientiousness. The Stoics understood that wisdom comes through action, not before it. You don't think your way into a new life, you act your way into new thinking. Every step forward, even a clumsy one, teaches you something that sitting still never could. When you act from incompleteness, you're not being reckless, you're being honest. You're acknowledging that you'll never have all the answers, that uncertainty is permanent, that growth happens in motion, not in preparation. This requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to failure. Most people avoid action because they're terrified of failing, but failure isn't the opposite of success. Inaction is. Failure means you tried. Inaction means you surrendered without even entering the arena. Every version of yourself that you admire, the confident one, the capable one, the one who doesn't hesitate, exists on the other side of action you haven't taken yet. You don't become that person by thinking about it. You become that person by acting like them before you feel like them. Identify one thing you've been postponing until you're ready. Then ask yourself honestly, will I ever feel ready? Or is readiness just an excuse? Then do it today. Badly if necessary, imperfectly, scared, but do it. Because competence doesn't precede action, it follows it. You don't learn to swim by reading about swimming. You don't learn courage by thinking about bravery. You learn by getting in the water, by acting despite fear, by moving before you're ready. The modern world has created endless ways to feel productive while avoiding actual production. You can research forever, plan indefinitely, prepare endlessly, and never actually do the thing. But all that preparation is just procrastination with better marketing. Stop preparing for the life you want to live and start living it now, with whatever you have, wherever you are, as incomplete and unqualified as you feel. Because you are incomplete, you always will be. Completeness is another myth. Growth is permanent incompleteness in motion. The waiting ends when you decide it ends, not when you're ready. When you decide that living as an incomplete, imperfect, scared human being is better than dying as someone who never tried. If you're done waiting, make this commitment now. I act now. Number 2, become comfortable being misunderstood. You've been contorting yourself to be understood, explaining your choices, justifying your path, defending your decisions to people who will never see what you see. And in that endless performance of making yourself comprehensible, you've abandoned the truth of who you actually are. Most of your anxiety comes from this, the exhausting effort to be understood by everyone, to make your life make sense to people who aren't living it, to gain approval from audiences who don't matter. Epictetus saw this trap clearly. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Read that again. Your growth will confuse people. Your transformation will threaten them. Your evolution will make them uncomfortable because it forces them to confront their own stagnation. And if you need their understanding to move forward, you'll never move at all. The people who judge your choices aren't living your life. They're not carrying your burden. They're not fighting your battles. They're spectators offering commentary on a game they've never played. And you've been letting their opinions shape your decisions. Think about the dreams you've abandoned because they didn't make sense to others. The paths you didn't take because you couldn't explain them rationally. the versions of yourself you've suppressed because they didn't fit other people's expectations. All of it sacrificed on the altar of being understood. All of it traded for the comfort of approval. And where has that gotten you? Still stuck, still unfulfilled, still living a life designed by committee instead of conviction. The truth is that your deepest calling will rarely make sense to others. Your most authentic choices will often appear illogical to people who don't share your values, your vision, your internal compass. And that's not a problem, it's a filter. It separates the people who need to understand from the people who need to trust. Consider how much energy you waste trying to make others comfortable with your evolution, softening your ambitions so they don't threaten mediocre friendships, downplaying your growth so others don't feel inadequate, staying small so people around you don't have to confront their own smallness. But that accommodation kills you, slowly, quietly. Every time you shrink yourself to fit someone else's limited understanding of who you should be, you betray the person you're becoming. The Stoics knew that external opinion is outside your control. You cannot manage how others perceive you. You cannot force them to see your perspective. You cannot make them understand motivations they've never felt. And the attempt to do so is wasted energy that could be spent actually living. When you become comfortable being misunderstood, something liberating happens. You stop performing. You stop crafting narratives that make your life palatable to others. You stop seeking permission from people who have no authority over your choices. You just live. Authentically, unapologetically, without the constant need to explain yourself. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive. It means developing internal validation. It means building conviction so strong that external confusion can't shake it. It means knowing your reasons even when you can't, or won't, articulate them to others. Think about the pressure of conformity, the subtle and overt messages that your path should look like everyone else's. That deviation requires justification. That uniqueness demands explanation. That different needs defending. But you don't owe anyone an explanation for your life. Not your family, not your friends, not strangers on the internet, not the voices in your head that sound like their judgment. You owe yourself integrity. That's it. Stop explaining yourself. When someone questions your choices, resist the urge to justify. A simple, "This is what's right for me," is complete. You don't need their understanding to proceed. You need your own clarity. Also, audit your relationships. How many people in your life require you to stay small for them to feel comfortable? How many friendships are built on your lack of growth? Those aren't relationships, they're prisons. And you're the only one who can unlock the door. The modern world is built on consensus, on validation through likes and comments and shares, on the illusion that your worth is determined by how many people understand and approve of you. But that's slavery disguised as connection. Real freedom is living according to your own standard while being completely at peace with others not getting it. It's making choices that serve your growth even when they disappoint people. It's prioritizing your evolution over their comfort. Some people will call this selfish. Let them. Their discomfort with your growth is their work to do, not yours. Your job isn't to make your transformation digestible for others. Your job is to transform. You'll lose people in this process. Friends who only knew the old you. Family members who preferred you compliant. Colleagues who benefited from your smallness. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with understanding that some relationships have expiration dates. And holding on past that date poisons both parties. The people who matter, the ones aligned with your evolution, won't need lengthy explanations. They'll see you moving and trust the direction even when they don't understand the map. They'll support the growth even when it takes you away from them temporarily. Misunderstanding is the price of transformation. Confusion is the cost of evolution. If everyone understands your path, you're probably not pioneering, you're following, and following keeps you safe, but never makes you free. If you're ready to stop explaining yourself, declare this: I need no permission. Number 3, curate your inputs like your life depends on it. Your mind is not a neutral space. It's a battlefield, and every piece of information you consume is either arming you or poisoning you. Every conversation you engage in is either elevating you or degrading you. Every environment you inhabit is either strengthening you or weakening you. And most people treat their inputs like they're harmless. They consume carelessly. They engage indiscriminately. They expose themselves to toxic information and then wonder why their mental state is toxic. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. What are you feeding your soul? What content are you consuming daily? What voices have you given access to your internal world? Because those inputs aren't neutral. They're formative. They're shaping who you're becoming, whether you're conscious of it or not. Think about the last week. How much of what you consumed actually made you better? How much news did you read that you can't do anything about? How many arguments did you witness online that had nothing to do with your life? How much entertainment did you use to numb yourself instead of develop yourself? All of it counts. All of it shapes you. You're not immune to the effects of information just because you think you're consuming it passively. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between just scrolling and deliberate study. It absorbs it all. The modern information environment is designed to hijack your attention and fill your mind with garbage. Outrage porn that spikes your cortisol. Comparison engines disguised as social platforms. Endless streams of content engineered to keep you engaged but never satisfied, and you're swimming in it, voluntarily, multiple hours per day. Then, wondering why, you feel anxious, scattered, inadequate, and overwhelmed. Consider what happens when you start your day by checking your phone, before you've even formed your own thoughts, before you've connected with your own priorities. You're downloading everyone else's agenda into your consciousness. The news wants your attention. Notifications want your reaction. Other people's problems want your energy, and you give it freely. Then spend the rest of the day trying to focus, trying to find clarity, trying to reconnect with what actually matters to you. But you can't, because your mind is already contaminated with noise. The Stoics were ruthless about guarding their minds. They understood that you cannot build wisdom on a foundation of garbage. You cannot develop clarity while consuming chaos. You cannot become strong while feeding yourself weakness. This requires aggressive curation, not moderation, curation. Moderation implies that all content is acceptable in small doses, but some content is poison at any dose. Some conversations degrade you even in limited exposure. Some environments damage you no matter how briefly you visit them. Here's what needs to go: relationships that consistently drain you without reciprocating. Content that makes you feel worse about yourself or the world without providing actionable value. News that you consume compulsively but can't influence. Arguments that don't involve you but activate your stress response anyway. Cut it out, ruthlessly, without guilt. Your mental health isn't a democracy where every input gets a vote. It's a dictatorship where you're the dictator, and your job is to protect the territory. Replace the garbage with signal. Books that challenge you. Conversations that elevate you. Content created by people who are where you want to be or who have values you want to embody. Silence, stillness, space for your own thoughts to emerge. Think about your environment too, the physical spaces you occupy daily. Are they chaotic or ordered, cluttered or clear? Do they inspire focus or encourage distraction? Your environment is input. It's constantly communicating with your nervous system, either supporting your goals or sabotaging them. The practice is simple but not easy. Conduct an input audit. For 1 week, track everything you consume: media, conversations, environments. Then ask, is this making me better or worse? Is this serving my growth or my stagnation? Is this aligned with who I'm becoming or who I was? For everything that doesn't pass that filter, eliminate it. Not reduce it. Eliminate it. Create white space. Guard your attention like the precious resource it is, because it is. Your attention determines your thoughts. Your thoughts determine your actions. Your actions determine your life. Also, become conscious of the voices you've internalized, the inner dialogue running constantly in your head. Whose voice is that really? Is it yours, or is it the echo of parents, teachers, critics, society? Most people live with a committee of internalized voices that don't belong to them, following scripts they never chose. Evict them, all of them. Then build a new inner voice, one that's actually yours, one that speaks with your values, your wisdom, your authority. But you can't build that voice while other voices are drowning it out. The modern world wants you confused, overwhelmed, and reactive. It profits from your scattered attention. Your transformation depends on reclaiming that attention and directing it with ruthless precision toward inputs that actually serve you. If you're ready to protect your mind, commit to this. I guard what enters. Number 4, train yourself to need less. You're drowning in want, endless craving. The next thing, the next level, the next achievement that will finally make you feel complete. And every time you get what you wanted, the satisfaction lasts for days, maybe hours, before the hunger returns, demanding more. This isn't ambition, this is addiction, and it's stealing your peace. Seneca saw this pattern destroy people. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. You're not poor because of what you lack. You're poor because you've trained yourself to need everything, to require specific conditions for contentment, to demand that reality meet your preferences before you allow yourself satisfaction. And reality doesn't care about your demands. It will never perfectly align with your preferences, which means you've built a system where peace is always conditional, always one achievement away, always dependent on circumstances you can't fully control. That's not living. That's hostage negotiation with life, and you're losing. Think about what you've convinced yourself you need, the income level that will finally feel like enough, the body that will make you stop criticizing yourself, the relationship that will fill the emptiness, the recognition that will prove your worth, the lifestyle that will justify your existence. None of it works, because the problem isn't what you have, it's what you think you need to have. And that list of requirements grows faster than your ability to fulfill it. You're running on a treadmill, chasing sufficiency that moves as fast as you do. The Stoics practiced poverty, not because they worshipped suffering, but because they understood that needing less makes you unbreakable. When you can be content with little, you can't be controlled by the threat of losing much. When you don't require luxury to be happy, you're free in a way that wealthy people never are. This isn't about rejecting success or achievement. It's about breaking the psychological dependence on external conditions for internal peace. It's about building a baseline of contentment that exists independent of what you have, what you've accomplished, or what others think of you. Consider the modern definition of success: more money, more status, more possessions, more experiences. All of it external, all of it requiring constant acquisition, all of it training you to need more, which makes you perpetually insufficient. But what if you trained yourself in the opposite direction? What if you deliberately reduced your requirements for contentment? What if you found satisfaction in simplicity, in sufficiency, in having enough rather than having everything? That's not deprivation, that's liberation. When you need less, you work from desire rather than desperation. You make choices from abundance rather than scarcity. You keep your dignity because you're not willing to compromise your values for things you don't actually need. Think about the pressure you feel to maintain a certain lifestyle, the expenses you can't reduce because they're tied to your identity, the status markers you need to preserve your social position, all of it trapping you in jobs you hate, relationships you've outgrown, situations that drain you. But you chose that trap. By deciding that you need these things, by making your contentment dependent on maintaining them, by refusing to explore whether you could be equally or more satisfied with less. For 1 month, experiment with less. Pick one area: spending, consumption, convenience, comfort. Deliberately reduce it, not as punishment, but as training. See what happens when you need less and have less. See if your satisfaction actually drops, or if it stays the same, or even increases. Most people discover something shocking. Less doesn't diminish their happiness, it clarifies it. When you strip away the excess, you discover what actually matters. When you remove the clutter, you find space for what's essential. This applies to everything. Relationships. Do you need constant connection, or can you find peace in solitude? Entertainment. Do you need perpetual stimulation, or can you sit with boredom? Validation. Do you need continuous approval, or can you trust your own judgment? The more you need, the more vulnerable you are. Every need is a potential point of failure, a lever someone can pull, a dependency that can be exploited. When you need less, you have fewer weaknesses. Also, consider your identity needs. The need to be seen as smart, successful, attractive, important. The need for your achievements to be recognized. The need for your struggles to be validated. All of it making you dependent on other people's perceptions for your sense of self. But when you stop needing those external confirmations, when you can hold your own worth internally without requiring constant reinforcement, you become free. Not because you don't care what others think, but because their thoughts don't determine your reality. The modern world trains you to need more. Every advertisement, every social comparison, every lifestyle upgrade. It's all designed to make you feel insufficient, so you'll keep consuming, keep chasing, keep needing. Break the cycle. Not by rejecting everything, but by questioning everything. Does this actually improve my life, or does it just add complexity? Does this serve my growth, or does it serve my ego? Do I need this, or have I just been conditioned to want it? The Stoics knew that freedom lives in simplicity, that power comes from needing little, that the person who requires the least is the most resilient, the most adaptable, the most unbreakable. Train yourself to be that person, not through deprivation, but through conscious reduction. Strip away the excess, release the dependencies, build a life where your contentment comes from within rather than from without. Number 5. Stop treating time like it's unlimited. You act like you have forever. Postponing conversations, delaying action, tolerating situations that drain you, wasting hours on meaningless distraction, all of it built on the unconscious assumption that there will always be more time. There won't be. Every moment that passes is gone permanently. Every day wasted is a day you'll never reclaim. Every year you spend tolerating what you hate is a year stolen from the life you could be living, and you're acting like time is renewable, like you can squander it now and make it up later. Marcus Aurelius faced this reality daily. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not someday, right now. This conversation could be your last. This day could be your final one. This year could be all you get, and you're spending it scrolling, complaining, procrastinating, and tolerating mediocrity. Most people live like they're immortal. They make plans for decades away. They postpone important work until conditions improve. They delay difficult conversations until the timing is perfect. They wait to start living until they feel ready. And then they wake up at 50, 60, 70, and realize most of their life is behind them. That the time they were waiting for never came. That the perfect conditions never materialized. That they spent decades preparing to live instead of actually living. Think about the last month. How much time did you waste? How many hours did you give to things that don't matter? How much energy did you spend on problems you can't solve, people who don't deserve it, activities that don't serve you? All of it gone, irretrievable. You traded your life, your actual finite existence, for distraction, for comfort, for the illusion of having time to waste. But you don't have time to waste. Nobody does. Yet people act like time is the one resource that's unlimited. They're careful with money, with possessions, with reputation, but reckless with time, which is the only resource that truly matters. The Stoics understood that time is the ultimate currency. You can't earn more of it. You can't borrow it. You can't buy it back. Once spent, it's gone forever. And most people spend it like they're rich when they're actually bankrupt. Consider what you're tolerating right now, the job that's slowly killing your spirit, the relationship that's been dead for years, the habits that diminish you, the obligations that serve no purpose, all of it consuming your time, your life, and you're allowing it because you think you have time to fix it later. But later is a lie. Later is where dreams go to die. Later is where potential rots. Later is the cemetery where people bury their unlived lives. Here's what happens when you truly internalize your mortality. You stop tolerating garbage. You stop wasting time on people who don't value you. You stop engaging in activities that don't serve your growth. You stop postponing important work because you realize there is no someday. There's only today. This isn't about living recklessly or burning everything down. It's about living deliberately, about treating each day like the gift it is instead of the burden you pretend it to be, about making choices that honor the fact that your time is limited and precious. The practice is daily. Every morning before you check your phone or engage with the world, ask yourself, if this were my last day, what would I prioritize? What conversations would I have? What would I create? Who would I connect with? What would I stop tolerating? Then live that way, not from fear of death, but from respect for life, not from desperation, but from clarity, not because you might die soon, but because you're definitely dying eventually, and you refuse to reach the end with your life still locked inside you. Also, track your time for 1 week. Actually measure where it goes. How much to work, to relationships, to growth, to distraction, to meaningless consumption. Most people are shocked when they see the data. They thought they were investing in what matters, but the numbers reveal they're spending most of their life on nothing. The modern world is engineered to steal your time. Infinite scroll, autoplay, notifications, manufactured urgency. All of it designed to fragment your attention and consume your hours while providing nothing of substance in return. You have to fight for your time, aggressively, ruthlessly, without apology, because nobody else will protect it for you. Your employer will take all you give. Social media will consume every minute you allow. Other people will fill your calendar if you let them. But your time is yours. It's the only thing that's truly yours, and how you spend it determines who you become and what your life means. Stop spending it like you're rich. Start investing it like you're running out, because you are. Every second that passes is one you'll never get back. Every hour wasted is an hour of your life you traded for nothing. If you're done wasting time, declare this now. My time is sacred. Number 6. Build capacity for solitude. You're terrified of being alone with yourself, so you fill every gap with noise, constant connection, perpetual distraction, background sound, anything to avoid sitting in silence with your own thoughts, your own company, your own reality, and that avoidance is destroying you, because everything you're running from lives in that silence. Every unresolved issue, every uncomfortable truth, every question you've been avoiding, every part of yourself you've been denying. It's all waiting for you in the quiet, and you're too scared to face it. Seneca understood this fear. The primary indication of a well-ordered mind is a man's ability to remain in one place and linger in his own company. Can you do that? Can you sit alone for an hour without reaching for your phone, without turning on music, without seeking external stimulation? Can you be with yourself, just yourself, without discomfort? Most people can't. They've lost the ability to exist without constant input. They need podcasts, music, videos, conversation, anything to avoid the confrontation with their internal world. And in that avoidance, they never develop the depth, clarity, or self-knowledge that only comes from solitude. Think about your daily routine. How much of it is spent alone, in genuine silence? Not just physically alone while scrolling or consuming content, but actually alone, present with yourself, your thoughts, your inner landscape. Probably almost none, because solitude feels uncomfortable. It brings up everything you've been pushing down, the disappointments, the regrets, the questions about whether you're living the life you actually want, the recognition of patterns you need to break, the acknowledgement of truths you've been avoiding. So, you run, you stay busy, you keep yourself occupied, you maintain constant connection with others, so you never have to connect with yourself. And in doing so, you remain a stranger to the person you spend every moment with, you. The Stoics didn't practice solitude to be antisocial. They practiced it to know themselves, to hear their own voice beneath the noise of the world, to develop the internal clarity that's impossible when you're constantly consuming other people's thoughts, opinions, and agendas. When you avoid solitude, you avoid self-knowledge. You never develop your own philosophy because you're always borrowing someone else's. You never discover your own values because you're always adopting the values around you. You never find your own voice because you're always echoing others. Consider how dependent you've become on external validation, on constant feedback, on other people's responses to confirm your existence. That dependency exists because you haven't built a relationship with yourself. You need others to tell you who you are because you've never sat still long enough to find out. But here's what happens when you develop capacity for solitude. You become sovereign. You stop needing constant connection because you're comfortable in your own company. You stop seeking approval because you've built internal validation. You stop being controlled by loneliness because you've learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a state. Being lonely is a judgment about that state. You can be alone and completely content. You can be surrounded by people and deeply lonely. The difference is your relationship with yourself. Most people have a terrible relationship with themselves. They don't like their own company. They find their thoughts boring or disturbing. They would rather be with anyone, even people they don't particularly like, than be alone with themselves. That's a crisis, because you can't escape yourself. You're the one person you'll be with for your entire life. If you can't stand your own company, you're in prison with a cellmate you hate, and there's no parole. Start with 10 minutes, set a timer, sit in silence, no phone, no book, no music, no podcast, just you and your thoughts. Notice what comes up, the discomfort, The urge to reach for distraction, the anxiety, the boredom. Don't fight it, just observe it. Do this daily. Gradually increase the time, 20 minutes, 30, an hour. Build your capacity for solitude the way you'd build any other skill, through consistent practice. Also, take yourself on a solo date. Go somewhere alone, a coffee shop, a museum, a park, not to work or read or scroll, but simply to be present with yourself in the world. Notice how uncomfortable it feels. Notice the urge to look busy so others don't think you're pathetic for being alone. That discomfort is data. The modern world has pathologized solitude. It's treated as a symptom of social failure, as something to be fixed or avoided. But solitude isn't the problem. The inability to handle it is. The terror of being alone reveals that you've never developed a self-worth being alone with. So develop one. Use solitude to reflect, to process, to integrate your experiences, to hear your own thoughts instead of constantly consuming others, to discover what you actually think, want, believe, not what you've been told to think, want, believe. In solitude, you'll encounter uncomfortable truths about choices you've made, about where you're headed, about gaps between who you are and who you claim to be. Good. Those truths need to be faced. They're not going away just because you're avoiding them through constant distraction. Also recognize, every great thinker, creator, and builder spent significant time alone. Not because they were antisocial, but because depth requires solitude. Creativity requires silence. Self-knowledge requires uninterrupted time with yourself. You can't think deeply while constantly consuming. You can't create meaningfully while perpetually connected. The Stoics built their philosophy in solitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations for himself, in private, processing his thoughts without an audience. That's where wisdom develops, not in the noise of the crowd, but in the quiet of self-examination. Build that capacity, not to become a hermit, but to become whole, to know yourself well enough that you don't need constant external input to know who you are. To be comfortable enough in your own presence that being alone becomes a gift rather than a punishment. Number 7. Accept that some bridges should burn. You've been trying to keep everyone, maintaining relationships that died years ago, preserving connections that no longer serve you, staying loyal to people who aren't loyal to your growth. All because you're terrified of loss, of conflict, of being seen as the bad person who walked away. But some bridges should burn, some relationships need to end, some chapters need to close permanently, and your refusal to accept that is keeping you trapped in a version of your life you've outgrown. Epictetus taught a hard truth. Keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Read that carefully. Not people you've known longest. Not people you share history with. Not people you feel obligated to. People who uplift you. People whose presence makes you better. Everyone else? They're anchors disguised as companions. Think about the relationships you're maintaining out of obligation. The friends you've outgrown, but keep because abandoning them feels cruel. The family members whose presence drains you, but you tolerate because they're family. The colleagues who undermine you, but you engage with because you work together. All of it costing you energy, peace, growth, time. Your unwillingness to let these relationships die is killing parts of you that need to live. Most people operate from a scarcity model of relationships, as if connection is rare and must be preserved at all costs. So they cling to relationships long past their expiration date. They tolerate toxicity because they fear loneliness. They stay in dynamics that diminish them because leaving feels like failure. But maintaining dead relationships isn't loyalty, it's cowardice. It's choosing comfort over truth. It's prioritizing others' feelings over your own evolution. It's sacrificing who you're becoming to preserve who you were. The Stoics understood that not everyone deserves access to you, that your inner circle should be curated ruthlessly, that the people you surround yourself with either elevate you or contaminate you. There's no neutral ground. When you hold on to relationships that no longer serve you, you're not being kind. You're being dishonest. You're pretending. You're performing connection while feeling nothing. And that performance exhausts you while benefiting no one. Consider the relationships where you shrink yourself, where you can't speak freely, where you have to monitor your growth so they don't feel threatened, where your success makes them uncomfortable, where your evolution feels like betrayal to them. Those aren't relationships, those are cages, and you're choosing to stay locked inside because you're more afraid of their reaction to you leaving than you are committed to your own freedom. But here's what happens when you let those bridges burn. Space opens up, energy returns. You stop performing and start living. The people who actually belong in your life become visible because you're not distracted by maintaining relationships with people who don't. Some people are meant for seasons, not lifetimes, and trying to force a seasonal relationship into permanence creates suffering for everyone involved. The friendship that served you in your 20s might be wrong for who you're becoming in your 30s. The family dynamics that worked when you were dependent might be toxic now that you're independent. Letting go isn't betrayal. It's honoring reality. It's accepting that people grow in different directions and that's okay. It's acknowledging that love and compatibility aren't the same thing. You can care about someone and still need them out of your life. Here's the practice. Make a list of every significant relationship in your life. Then honestly assess, does this person support my growth? Do I feel energized or depleted after spending time with them? Can I be authentic, or do I have to perform? Are they celebrating my evolution or resenting it? For every relationship that consistently scores negative, you have a choice. Address it directly or end it cleanly. But don't keep tolerating it while pretending everything's fine. That's the worst option. It prolongs suffering while preventing resolution. Some bridges will burn through honest conversation. You'll tell the truth about what's not working, and they'll reject it, and the relationship will end. Good. Truth should be the filter. People who can't handle your honesty don't deserve your company. Other bridges you'll burn intentionally. You'll make the hard decision to end relationships that have become toxic, even if the other person doesn't understand, even if they make you the villain, even if others judge you for walking away. Let them. Their judgment isn't your burden. Their comfort isn't your responsibility. Your growth is. The modern world preaches unconditional acceptance of all relationships. It makes villains of people who set boundaries, who walk away from toxicity, who prioritize their own well-being over others' feelings. But that's guilt programming designed to keep you small and accessible. Reject it. Some relationships should end. Some people should lose access to you. Some bridges should burn so you can't walk back across them when loneliness or guilt tempts you to retreat. This doesn't mean becoming cruel or callous. It means becoming honest. It means accepting that growth requires loss. That transformation demands you shed relationships that fit the old version of you, but constrict the new one. The Stoics knew that your associations shape your character, that you become like the people you spend time with, that if you surround yourself with mediocrity, you'll become mediocre, that if you tolerate toxicity, you'll internalize it. So burn the bridges that lead to places you don't want to go. Release the relationships that anchor you to versions of yourself you've outgrown. Create space for connections that actually serve your evolution instead of hindering it. You've reached the end, but this is where everything actually begins. These 7 lessons aren't information to store, they're instructions for immediate implementation. Knowledge without action is just mental decoration. Understanding without transformation is just entertainment. 2026 won't reinvent you. These lessons won't magically change your life by existing in your awareness. You have to do the work, daily, without applause, without immediate results. Without the comfort of knowing it's working. Stop waiting for readiness. Act now from incompleteness. Become comfortable being misunderstood by people who don't matter. Curate your inputs ruthlessly because your mind is your kingdom. Train yourself to need less so you can't be controlled by more. Stop treating time like it's unlimited and start living like it's scarce. Build capacity for solitude so you actually know yourself. Accept that some bridges should burn because not all relationships deserve to survive your growth. These lessons work together. They're not separate. They're interconnected principles that, when applied consistently, transform you from the inside out. But they require something most people never give: sustained commitment without emotional support. The discipline to continue when motivation fades. The integrity to keep promises to yourself when nobody's watching. The Stoics wrote their philosophy for themselves during the hardest moments of their lives. They weren't performing for an audience, they were surviving reality. That's what these lessons are for. Survival. For building yourself into someone who can handle life without breaking. You'll fail at these practices. You'll slip back into old patterns. You'll choose comfort over growth, distraction over presence, performance over authenticity. That's expected. The difference between people who transform and people who stay stuck isn't perfection. It's persistence. It's getting back up. It's recommitting after every failure. Start today. Pick one lesson. Implement it. Not perfectly, but persistently. Then tomorrow, implement it again. And the day after. And the day after. Until it's not something you practice, it's who you are. If this video connected with you, like it now. Share it with someone who's ready to stop making excuses. Comment below with which lesson you're implementing first. Subscribe to this channel because we're not done. We're building a community of people who choose growth over comfort, truth over performance, transformation over stagnation. The question isn't whether you can change. You can. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll do the work when it's uncomfortable. Whether you'll keep going when results feel distant. Whether you'll choose the person you could become over the comfort of who you've been. Make your final commitment. Comment this truth. I become now